In this edition of Idle Gossip, stop the sad sequels, Kevin Bacon sizzles, and stars as they are. Old rock stars never die. Hey, it's true. Take, for example, the Rolling Stones. The four-piece rock phenomenon started together as one of the English bands who rode the British rock wave of the 1960s to superstardom and infamy. Now aged in their late 50s and 60s, when will they call it a day?
Well, we've been doing this a long time, you know.
Fans believe not until the bitter end.
You go to their concert and there's songs, it's like the songbook of your life. I mean, every song they play has memories, every song you've heard since you were a kid, you know, and you just have such a deep-rooted connection.
And if you look at the members of the group, a rock and roll lifestyle as well as honest-to-goodness late middle age is written on their faces. Nevertheless, Mick, those lips, and the rest of the band still fill stadiums and tour every few years. What can be their secret to such longevity as a group and as performers? Rod Stewart seems to have a suggestion.
Sex, soccer and good wine. That's the future to a good, healthy life.
Or is it the company of young ladies that gives this 50-somethings ticker a jump start every now and again? Rod has gone from 70s rock wild one to noughties pop mild one. We're kind of glad because the idea of seeing Rod cavorting around on stage, open-shirted, screeching, "Do you think I'm sexy?" when he's about to hit 60 would just be plain wrong. Rod has aged gracefully and updated his persona and performance along the way. Well, if you excuse the hair, almost everything. Not so for David Bowie. Sure, he looks great for someone who'd normally be nearing retirement, but like some others in the industry, his reinventions have been drastic. Fans have dropped off along the way.
I guess it was impossible to even conceive the age of whatever that is. Yes, that's right, isn't it? 56.
Now looking more like a 40-year-old and keeping up with the younger set musically, Bowie finds himself a thin, white kook who's maybe too old for the kids to get into and too trendy for more discerning music aficionados. But with hair like that in his 50s, you've got to be impressed. If it's wine and soccer for Rod Stewart, it's a magical hairdresser for Bowie. Some of today's ageing rockers were popular with the blue rinse set when they were young. Now most of them are nearing granny's age themselves. Those early-aged fans are now long in the grave, or beyond hearing the music. So how does someone like Paul McCartney keep up with the crowd? Well, he really doesn't have to. As one of the rare surviving Beatles, Paul gets on with the job at hand, playing the songs that made him for the regularly returning fans who have dragged their kids along.
I'd kind of do this on the side. I'd do this as a hobby. You know, I'd be going around pubs. Hey, do you want anyone to sing tonight? And if they wouldn't let me in, I'd be outside the pub.
As he penned half of the Beatles' hits, Paul has every right to rehash the old stuff as long as he wants. He probably will for some time to come, because he hasn't had a hit for 20 years himself. If you like music that's non-threatening, soothing and grandmother-friendly, Simon and Garfunkel are still at it. Guaranteed to put a hardened insomniac to sleep, their soulful, folksy tunes date back to the 60s, like all our other rock and roll oldies. They've been a non-group for some time, only reforming every 10 years or so, performing limited concert dates to fill the coffers, and then go off to be non-events again. Their songs a short-lived breeze in a mythical place of tambourine men and purple haze. If Simon and Garfunkel reform in another 10 years, they'll be nearing 75 years of age. Their audience, clocking up the years just like the duo, may end up comatose by the end of the first song. If you're a rocker in your 60s, still living the lifestyle, you'd have every excuse to leave a shriveled up substance-racked reptilian form, but these rockers from the 60s have made longevity in the industry an art form. At a party one night in 1979, Mel Gibson got drunk and became involved in a brawl with 3 other men. Nonetheless, Gibson showed up for an audition the next day with stitches in his head, a broken nose and a disconnected jaw. Ironically, the producers were delighted with Gibson's appearance and promptly awarded him the title role in the classic road warrior flick, Mad Max. And now, our regular lesson on how to appear in public, the Fashion Police. Let's kick off with a right royal revelation. On a recent visit to Australia, Tasmanian-born Princess Mary, now residing with her husband Prince Frederick in Denmark, took a trip down under to visit. She's every inch a royal now as any blue-blooded fashionista. As we can see by her choice of apparel for casual and formal functions. Nice pink halter top. I wonder if the skirt comes off to reveal hot pants for the disco. And a whole slew of Aussie stars turned out to pay their respects. A little more understated, but at the same time, royal fashion god of the past, Prince Charles made a dash for peace and quiet, leaving the glamour up to the younger royals, sadly not displaying any of the stylish suits that inspire pop sensation Andre 3000 from Outkast. Pop royalty were in Sydney for the Australian MTV Awards. It wouldn't be an event without at least one Minogue, Danny looking pretty in pink. But if pink was a draw card for the paparazzi, Danny was to be terribly upstaged by the neurologically challenged Anna Nicole Smith, who was there being her zany self. Looking uncomfortable, perhaps due to the live and dangerous atmosphere of the show, or maybe just the tightness of her corset, was Kelly Osbourne, who performed a number wearing slimming black satin, and boy did she need it. The audience was titillated by Carmen Electra's naughty dance routine, and Ms. Electra killed off any competition from Ms. Osbourne, demonstrating how to wear a corset for maximum effect. Meanwhile, a different kind of royalty was strutting their stuff up the main drag of Sydney's inner city. The Mardi Gras was in town, and everybody was out. It's Mardi Gras, and you can be who you are. The fashion cornucopia on display often defies explanation. My vote for the fashion atrocity of the year goes to the marching Fran Dresches. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, a quick getaway was being executed by Martha Stewart, complete with hand-crocheted poncho and Learjet. She's not gonna get away with this one. Did she make that while she was away? I think we need some red carpet action. And what delivers better opportunity for a fashion field day than an American movie premiere? Sandra Bullock getting about in granny garb. The sequin coat is about 40 years too old for her. Awful. Please remove immediately. Just because the marching Fran Dresches got the fashion atrocity of the year doesn't mean you're not home free, missy. Now that's what I'm talking about. That is the dress to wear to a premiere. Starring in Be Cool and looking hot is Christina Milian. Oh, sweetie, are you on your way to an audition for Snow White? Go home and get changed.
I went to the
My goodness, what is she wearing on her head? Looks like a Valentine's Day candy box someone has origamied into a hat. Appalling! But nowhere near as appalling as John Galliano's dramatic appearance at the end of his own fashion show. I'd kill the person who suggested wind machines for dramatic effect. The wind blew, the hat went, the hair extensions got in the way, and he looked like a twit. Fashion police, over and out. I love going to the movies, but I hate it when some movie executive can't leave well enough alone. I'm referring to the hundreds of times a decently entertaining movie has hit box office pay dirt, and ka-ching, look out, it's sequel time. The excuses they find to continue a movie's success are often so half-baked. Idle Gossip will now take you on a cook's tour of underdone sequels of recent times, beginning with The Jewel of the Nile. Sequel to successful comedy-adventure flick Romancing the Stone, Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner take another trip as the romantic duo Joan and Jack, who work the adventure circuit like the Clintons campaigning. Danny DeVito, of course, joined them as the rabid Oompa Loompa Ralph, whose greed reflects that of the movie makers trying to put on this second trip was going to be anywhere near as fast-paced as the first. Producer Michael Douglas wisely stopped revealing any more jewels or stones in his later movies.
And if I gotta go, you gotta go.
When little Carol Ann sang happily, "They're here," in Poltergeist, it was really scary. But in Poltergeist 2, she whimpered, "They're back." So did many theatregoers, with a groan. The evil that craved Carol Ann is back on the block in the form of the emaciated Reverend Cain. He comes a-calling one day when the Freeling family are particularly bored due to no television sets allowed in the home. It's never a dull moment with the Freeling family and their regular spiritual home invasions.
Let me eat.
They all thankfully went into the light after a third bogus installment.
Leave us alone!
The first movie was nail-bitingly thrilling. The second, a little silly. The third was so bad, it was released in 3D to try to Shylock the audience into the theatre. Definite proof that classics like the original should have just been left alone. Jaws 3 in 3D can easily be mistaken for a comedy send-up. The effects featuring the rubber shark are too hilarious to miss, and the best part of the film, whether viewed in 3D or not, is the Superman-style credits coming out at you from the screen. Ooh, oh, in 3D. Jaws 4. The Revenge was surreptitiously placed in a movie canister in 1987, but audiences somehow knew whatever was in that can stank.
This time, it's personal.
The original Short Circuit brought to the screen a robot E.T. The second film was as pointless as it was dumb. Okay, it's probably meant for kids, but even stupid kids would get bored with this bad excuse for a feature film. But at the same time, hearing the Johnny Five robot swear could deem a quick glance worthwhile. The one saving grace about Short Circuit 2 is that Steve Guttenberg turned down the chance to reprise his role from the first film. Today, he'd probably beg for a part in Short Circuit 3.
Me, Johnny, you busted.
Feel-good movies sold themselves in the 80s, but when that good feeling revealed a distinct lack of substance in the form of feel-good sequels, the population turned to Prozac. For this, we blame The Karate Kid, but only Part 3. Part 1 baddie Kreese is back with some pals to get even with Miyagi and the skinny kid with the New York accent. Hold on, Weren't these scores settled in parts 1 and 2? Obviously, the writers ran out of ideas or themselves harboured deep issues with teen bullying. Kick, kick, punch, hi-ya with Miyagi's special technique. The end. The one thing all these shocking sequels have in common is they were all made in the 80s. What else can be said about the quality and expectations of the producers of the time, except that if it looked like the original hit and sounded like the original hit, the producers thought they could smell a hit. The audiences smelt something completely different. During the Sundance Film Festival, Britney Spears walked out of a screening of Robert Downey Jr.'s movie, The Singing Detective.
There's a lot of lights in there. Yeah.
Sundance is weird. You actually have to think about the movies when you watch them. At Idle Gossip, we tend to emphasise one decade regularly for its bad movies, and we're going to do it again today. But this time, when we mention the 1980s, we mean to discuss only one thing. Why Kevin Bacon hasn't yet been nominated for an Oscar. This multi-talented character actor has starred in over 40 motion pictures and played an array of roles.
What's the worst?
He keeps on turning up in movies year after year, and you ask yourself, why? He's never been acclaimed as a box office drawcard, and he's only a leading man in films that go up for rental soon after their dismal release. However, his supporting roles are in some of the biggest movies of the last decade. His story is not unusual. Kevin arrived in New York as a young adult with a definite goal of acting on Broadway, being taken seriously as an actor, and having a career somewhat like Meryl Streep. This, of course, is far from what really happened to our cute-nosed friend. Kevin's most notable role was in Footloose, the character-driven but boringly danced 80s pop movie where he starred with Sarah Jessica Parker. A huge box office hit at the time, Footloose led Kevin to a career as an established actor, but not to critical acclaim. It seemed Hollywood was not quite sure where to put Kevin. The projects he accepted often bombed at the box office. A couple had menial success as video releases, but his place among the stars seemed destined to fade into obscurity.
300, clear.
Fortunately, he was resuscitated by his role in Flatliners, alongside an ensemble cast that included hot young stars such as Julia Roberts and Kiefer Sutherland. His hair was bigger than both of them combined, and it was a mega hit at the box office.
Oh my God.
You withheld information. That's the same as lying.
You wouldn't have done it.
A more challenging and significant role followed in Oliver Stone's JFK, where Kevin played a jailed fascist good time boy.
I'll knock it all down to involuntary manslaughter, 2 years or home in 6 months.
Extreme roles were coming his way, and Kevin added his own touch to A Few Good Men and then Apollo 13. Sleepers saw him play an evil guard at a boys' reformatory school, and he received acclaim for the performance.
Toss your clothes on the floor.
Kevin now seems to be walking a tightrope between obscurity and the threat of being typecast. Recent film The Woodsman sees Kevin playing a sex offender trying to rebuild his life after jail. It seems all the kooky, twisted roles go to one guy. Is he the only one with the determination to play such confronting roles? Or are these parts all Kevin gets offered?
Say you jumped when I came in.
I used to think you were shy, but...
Kevin's private life couldn't be more removed from his edgy on-screen persona. He has been married for over 15 years to actress Kyra Sedgwick, and they have 2 children. He has never lived in LA and prefers to keep his distance from the dream factory.
I try not to think too much about Hollywood per se. I'm trying to go part to part and role to role, trying to make, my own rules.
Very few people can claim that they have a game named after them. The game is The 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. It works on the hypothesis that Kevin Bacon is at the centre of the universe, for actors anyway, and any performer can be linked to him by no more than 6 steps.
You ordered it. The brisket's really good.
For instance, Kevin Costner appeared in JFK with Kevin, so he has a Bacon number of 1. I have a friend who was in a film with Susan Sarandon who was in Bull Durham with Kevin Costner, so my Bacon number would be 4. Kevin fully endorses the game, and it gives him a kind of immortality, possibly greater than Oscar-winning glamour. So who needs a little gold statue after all? With so many different movies to his credit, Kevin will probably go down as Hollywood's quietest achiever to consistently bring home the bacon.
Oh, this is just a dream, you know?
Life just gets easier for the stars. Not only is it acceptable for them to prance around saying their lines and generally just being themselves, but the last few years have seen a clutch of movies with the stars playing themselves.
Who the hell are you?
The Last Action Hero was a slow mover at the box office, but Arnie sends his on-screen action persona up all through the movie, as well as others like Sharon Stone.
This is the Lieutenant Governor.
Later, here's what I... The governor gets here, call me.
Even Tina Turner makes a cameo appearance.
I'll be back. Ha! You did not gonna say that, did you?
That's what you always say.
I do?
It's taken almost a decade, but now actors are queuing for cameo roles where they get to play themselves. It all looks like good fun, and it's a great way to show you don't take yourself too seriously.
There's a tiny door in my office, Maxine, and it takes you inside John Malkovich.
A few years ago, a very clever film was released bearing the title of a well-known American actor's name. And it was rather twisted and confusing.
It's my head!
As kooky as it sounds, John Malkovich appeared and played himself in a supporting role. Imagine a movie about you, an established star, and you play yourself and get credited as a support? The nerve.
Malkovich, I'd like you to put this hat on. You're gonna put on that, and you're gonna stuff
The
it with
excuse
that.
given for Julia Roberts' recent turn at playing herself was loaded with tongue-in-cheek sarcasm.
Small role. Who am I supposed to be?
We needed someone famous!
Where do you get someone famous?
Think 4 weddings and a funeral.
She wasn't in 4 weddings and a funeral.
I wasn't in 4 weddings and a funeral.
We're sure you could almost hear the audience groan and roll their eyes while viewing Ocean's 12.
Welcome back, sir. Thank you, she's very tired. Thank you. That's the red.
Ocean's 12 takes the film within a film concept to a whole new level, with Roberts and Bruce Willis playing film actors from reality in an unrealistic movie setting. Bizarre.
You are not supposed to fly after you're 8 months pregnant.
It's the new thing to do for your career in Hollywood, it seems. And one project to capitalise on the concept as cheesily as possible is Domino, starring Keira Knightley and ex-90210 actors Ian Ziering and Brian Austin Green.
You know, it's not really playing ourselves. We're playing characters coincidentally named Ian Ziering and Brian Green that we look like and are the same ages as.
Who people would assume we might be.
I wonder if anybody has ever auditioned so badly that they were turned down for a role playing themselves.